Hello, and welcome to Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm Old Who.
My name is Melvin Pena. I represent You Who.
And I'm Jeff the Goblin.
We needed some goblin representation for this episode, different. We don't want to begrudge the little goblin. Well, I'll start because the first watch it didn't hit me. Nothing. I went, okay, it's a good Christmas special. And I'm not a fan of a lot of the Christmas specials because they try to be Christmassy and then there's nothing really Christmassy about them. It's a ploy to get higher ratings. I understand why you put one out. But I enjoyed it on the second one. I liked him. I liked her. And there were parts I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And there were parts I got a little. The structure got me a little bit because I thought it was over and then it wasn't over. And that took a couple of viewings for me to kind of go, oh, okay, let's see what you're saying. I liked him a great deal. I liked
that, though, because it felt like I was getting 2 Doctor Who episodes for the price of 1. I'm like, oh, it's not over yet? Amazing. I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead. I want you to go next.
Tale of two halves for me, I think. I adore Ncuti and Millie Gibson as Ruby. I was having flashbacks to listening to the Eighth Doctor and Lucy Miller. There's a sort of energy between them that is very hard to just create. I think it has to be there or it doesn't, and they've definitely got team charisma that just oozes. Funnily enough, the scene that sold it for me was them singing to the Goblin King, giving out the plot of what they were going to do.
So good.
I know I did I'm like going, is this going to be musical, a song in every episode? Is that something new? But for my Christmas holiday, I'm watching the extended versions of Hobbits and then Lord of the Rings while I'm off this week. So I just watched a bunch of singing goblins. I went, okay, more singing goblins. I did like that.
I think these singing goblins probably fit more into the tone of the piece or did they? Because tonally, it was all over the place. All over the place, this story. But it's also a Christmas episode, so I cut it a lot of slack because I don't, like you, Ross, I do not enjoy Christmas specials. I think I've liked one up to now.
I have one two I like and one.
Christmas specials.
Yeah, well, I did enjoy the New Year's more. I do think the only truly Christmas one I really like is Christmas Carol because it's got Michael Gambon, and it's a Christmas story. It's actually a freaking Christmas story.
I only like Christmas Invasion. No, that's it. The rest.
So that's a good. That's a great introduction to a Doctor story.
Yes.
Because you don't see him for 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But this one, well, Melvin, what's your take on this?
I am all the way towards the other end of the spectrum from y'all because I was just delighted with this. I was laughing my head off. At every bit of the Doctor and Millie's crazy mischief, like the singing, the dancing, the giant goblins, I was getting, and I get it, Jeff, like this is tonally all over the place, and I feel like that is one of the things that we're going to have to get used to. This is, even though we're getting RTD for a second time, like this is more or less a brand new approach to Doctor Who. I feel like we're getting here, that we've gotten, like we got from the moment Ncuti split off, bi-generated from David Tennant, that this is more fantasy-oriented. Like, I was getting Labyrinth vibes and Never-Ending Story vibes and the Dark Crystal vibes. I'm like, this should be, why is this not all, like, and it does, I mean, it pops up every now and again in Doctor Who, but, like, leaning into it, and I'm like, I'm ready for this. Not only the practical goblins, the King Goblin also was like, 5 puppeteers in there, like serious Jabba the Hutt vibes. Like, I just loved the weirdness of it, the out there-ness of it. We call Doctor Who science fantasy, but I feel like the fantasy aspect of it has been neglected or shortchanged for a long time, and the singing and dancing is part of that as well, you know.
Yeah.
So I am all on board. I loved the insanity of it. I loved the cheeky grandmother. I loved the time flip real quick when they went and time even the calling goblins time riders felt like that's the title of a 1980s movie that we never got. And I'm like, yes, all of that.
Like the time back.
They are very 1980 movie monsters too. They look, they could be in Critters or something like that.
And I love that stuff.
Yeah, I like the fantasy part too, and it reminded me of Moffat leaned into that in season 5, the first Amy Matt Smith season. You know, the pair, all that, because he's the wizard in all the fairy stories, all this stuff. He leading into it, and the first episode, the 11th Doctor, is very much like a fairy tale. Because it's the little girl, waiting in the garden. All that.
Yeah. I mean, but narratively, but
I
like the visuals
in it,
and the music, go for it.
Yeah, I like. What gets me is I like all the pieces that they put into this story. I like the goblins. I like the musical number works because they both do it. It is a reverse on, they're telling the bad guy their secret plan, but they do it in song, which is silly. The thing I like the most, besides Ncuti and Millie Gibson, was I really dug her family and the woman next door.
Mrs. Flood.
I really was like, you're building a world. I'm more interested in see what happens with Cherry and Carla and how traveling with it. The thing that made early Davies stuff work was you had the characters had families. It wasn't just they were kidnapped and were never seen again, like in the old show where they would just disappear and their family. You wouldn't care what their families did. And I like those three characters. I really like the old lady. I'm guessing is she? Everybody is gonna start their guesses and they're all gonna be the Ronnie, Susan, and they got Tekuin.
Do you want to know my guess?
What's your guess?
She's going to be in the Beatles episode as a young girl. There you go. That's my guess.
Yeah,
it'll be something that basic.
You know what? That one is the only one I've heard that makes any actual sense.
My guess, or and I don't really like making sort of wild guesses, but given the context clues, and that's one of the great things that you were just talking about, Ross, is that we're dropped into a context. We're dropped into a family. We're dropped into an already existing social structure, and so we get to sort of map that out for ourselves. Like, who are the neighbors? Who is the family that we're living with? What does Millie's world look like? But the episode also sort of gives us brief glimpses into, and the character's name is Mrs. Flood. Brief glimpses into her context, because you see her at the beginning and she's very sort of Scrooge-like, very closed off, very hostile towards that neighbor guy. I think his name was Abdul, who she's very friendly towards at the very end. So my thing is, over the course of this episode, she has had an adventure in the past with the Doctor, or with some Time Lord, because she just says, like, you've never seen a TARDIS before. She never says, she doesn't say you've never seen the TARDIS before. So it's likely that she's seen, that she is in, again, and I love that about this episode too, is that there's a lot of different mysteries that are scattered throughout the episode. So I am 100% with you, Jeff. I think that, I don't know if it's specifically the Beatles ep, but that in the course of this season, we will see that she had during this episode, she has had an adventure with the Doctor in her own past, which is amazing. I love that.
The other one is she's Ruby. That's the other one. She's an older Ruby. She got dumped back in time somewhere, and she stayed to watch over to make sure she takes her own path.
And she's the old one. She's the old one. But she's the old, or she's the old lady leaving a man.
I'm quite happy to wait and find out.
Yes, me too.
I am too. It was the most Moffat-y episode that Davies ever wrote. That was my other take. It was like, this is what you used to pay him to do.
I 100% want to.
Because Davies was never one to have the Doctor, in a special, travel back and make sure things happen. And I like that, because my favorite scene, honest to God, and watching it the second, third time, my favorite scene is the conversation between the sad Carla and the Doctor, where she's going, why would I want that? I'm waiting for my grand to go to sleep, my mom to go to sleep so I can have a couple hours to myself. Why would I want to do anything that wouldn't make me happy? And she has just said the saddest fucking thing you've ever fucking heard. And he goes, then why are you crying? And instead of it being something else, she goes, I don't know. Why are you? It's a wonderful scene. It's to see how Ruby plays such a big part in their life. And I just love those characters, and I love those character moments more. I mean, I had fun with the goblins and the dancing and all the adventure stuff and him running around. That's Doctor Who. I want to see that, but I love to see real people. The Doctor's talking to real people in a real way. So that was my favorite scene of the whole
Someone raised a point about that scene on Twitter, and it got me thinking. And it's possibly a cynical perspective.
It is, and I know exactly
what you're understand it.
It is a cynical, and I know exactly what you're going to say.
The optics of a black foster mum whose life is so much better with a white foster child. It did make me sort of jig how I view that scene, and I think it can be quite a cynical scene. I get what RTD was trying to do with that. I'm not sure he necessarily totally landed it.
See, I didn't think about it. I just thought that the reason she went on to have 33 other ones is because she adopted Ruby. It had just she fostered this child and it changed her
which
life.
is 100% Russell's intent.
Sure, and the fact that the actress is white, I like the fact that she was fostered by a black family. You know, that he didn't just, that they didn't match.
I love the parallels between Lulabelle and the Timeless Child. The fact that they're both young black girls without their own families, lost somewhere new. I like that. I think that's quite touching. And because of that, I don't think that RTD was specifically coming at it from a cynical perspective.
No.
But I think you have to be careful when you're presenting media that is proclaiming to be right and just, that you are careful with how you do that and how you present that.
I get it 100%, and I understand it, and I think it is the most cynical way that you can view that time reversal scene. And I get it, because it is a legitimate view, and I understand that people can have it, but also, I think it's completely coincidental. Carla does talk about how, before the time rewrite, that she had fostered, 32 previous children, some for days, some for weeks, some for years. And it just so happened that Ruby, of all of these people, of all the children that she took into her home, was the one who stayed. I think that is, again, regardless of what the optics are, that is the point, is that there was one who stayed who changed her life. And regardless, she could have been anybody.
That Carla is her mum and Ruby is her daughter. And that's all that matters. That is all that matters. At the end of it.
And Carla hits all the right beats, like when she's, Millie, when Ruby's just like, they can't find anything.
Yep.
So, and she's like, don't worry about it. And the thing that they're leaning into, the timeless child, that he knows what Ruby's going through. I just found out I was adopted.
It gives them a nice bond of shared trauma that they can relate to, and that they've also grown past as well. Yep. That trauma isn't a present trauma; it's just part of who they are now.
They are,
and that's. We all come from something, and we all have our experiences, and it's how those experiences shape who you become and how you deal with them. And now that the Doctor has dealt with their trauma, it makes them a stronger person. It makes them a freer person to go forward. And when he recognises that same thing in Ruby, it forms a bond with him and her. Him gently kissing the baby's head as he lays her down is such a sweet. That's probably my favourite bit. Is actually just that scene with the Doctor making sure Ruby goes where she needs to be.
Yeah. And I think he stays when he runs away. He runs away. I'm not going to try to do this again. I'm not going to take her with. He's not going to stick around. But he's staying. I think it is because I think we're going to see that I didn't because you've already been abandoned before.
Mm.
And I don't want to abandon, we have a connection and I don't want to, I think we need to continue this journey and I'm not going to abandon you because there's something going. I mean, it's Davies. He's setting up the big bad, the big plot thread, the Torchwood, the Bad Wolf. He's setting that all up.
Well, from the other perspective of that, though, I don't think it's as much to do with. I don't think Ncuti does run away. When he leaves that first time, it's to go save Davina McCall, and then he's about to come back, and he's like, "I'll just peace for a second." Again, I don't think it's him thinking about what impact he can have on her life or that he is abandoning her, as much as that scene that we're talking about, of them sort of realizing a sort of kinship that they have. When she asks about, he says, they look at their fridge and he's like, "You've got the biggest family in the world." And she says, "Who do you have?" And he's like, "Well, I don't have anyone." And he just sort of like glosses over that. I think the adventure that they had sort of in the middle of the episode sort of rang true for both of them, that they both realized that they had a connection, that they are, and because this is the thing, and it has to do also with the optics scene we were talking about earlier about what happens if Ruby isn't part of this family, that they realize that during that adventure they have on the Goblin ship together and the other times they run into each other, the club and stuff like that, that there's something there that they are for each other in a certain way, in the way that we saw, because I know I saw some rumblings on the internet about, RTD better not turn this into another creepy romance between, the old Time Lord and the girl. Like what we've just seen in the 3 specials that preceded this were, and it's what I thought at the end of that 3rd special and going into this special, is that for some reason, one of RTD's sort of takes on new takes on Doctor Who is, and this is going to be weird, it's a weird theory, but like, it's the X-Files perfected, that the Mulder and Scully relationship should never have been a romantic one. That look what you can do, and it was so weird thinking about and rewatching the end of the Giggle last night before watching the special, is that you've got a tall brown-haired guy and a spunky redheaded, feisty redhead, and they are settling into a life together as best friends. That is the conclusion of their story, is best friends living together. And that is so unusual and so strange in modern media, to privilege friendship that has nothing to do with romance. And I think that, again, bringing Millie and Ncuti together and allowing them to see what they can do for and with each other is a sort of a model of relationality that is new to Doctor Who.
I think it's kindred spirits.
Yep,
it's
exactly.
People looking for the same journey or the same adventure or the same lust for something new.
Yep.
I think it's more about kindred spirits, soulmates without the romance. You know that we're two peas in the same pod.
And you think back to the great companion combination, Sarah and Tom Bateman for Katie and Sean Pertwee, Vicky in the first Doctor.
I get lots of it. Shockingly,
that's more
I get a lot of Vicky vibes. I'm just saying.
Yeah, she's gonna. You know what I mean? It is. And Donna, because there's a reason why Tennant and Catherine Tate work so well, and why Donna and 10 and Donna and 14, whatever his number is, works, is because she was like, I don't want ew, no, ick. We're just friends. We're just mates. And I think that's why they work. Their chemistry is so good, and I think that's all we really need. She's going to teach the Doctor something. The Doctor's going to teach her something. They do have good chemistry. Yes. They were probably after this first episode. Well, thank you, Jesus, because that's a crapshoot. It is a crapshoot, and you do a lot of shit. That's why you hear these people. Oh, I did 20 auditions. It's like they're making sure, because if they say, yeah, this is a good idea, you end up with a Katrina where they're like, there's no chemistry here. There's nothing to this character. There's no vibe. You can't fake it sometimes. So that, that'll be good. I look forward to that. I'm excited to see. I was really a little upset when they said spring. I was like, come on.
It could be worse.
But I understand it.
I was pleasantly surprised that we've only got 5 months to wait. I thought, that's not long at all, bro.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of. I'm glad they're doing it. I am, because I'm glad they're filming ahead, so they've got it. Because the new thing with streaming is don't oversat. We've done the oversaturation. Let's kind of space stuff out. Build up a little. Let's take a break.
Now, I'm not going to be a fortune teller here, but I am. Essentially, as long as we can have Ncuti and Millie, it will be a blessing, because as soon as they're done, they are going off to great things. Yep. And they are both going to do phenomenally well, I think.
Yep. Oh, he's got a big part in the Tom Hanks and Spielberg are doing his third World War II miniseries about pilots over Europe, and it stars the guy that played Elvis last year for all the Oscars. He's the white, and Ncuti's playing one of the American African American Tuskegee Airmen.
Nice.
Yeah, which is a big deal.
Yeah,
nice.
So, no. It's like, I think they're getting 2 seasons, maybe 3 out of him, giving him a little breather to do some TV, so something else, and then maybe
he'll be in Hollywood. He's already done. He's already been a bit part in Barbie.
Yeah, he's got his foot in the door.
Oh no, and that's kind of why he wasn't, I think, available for the specials. I think that's one reason they went, let's give them something else, and Davies goes, I'll clean the palette for, I'll put everything else to rest, and we'll start afresh.
The other great thing about a May launch date is, and I know there's been a lot of talk in the past from various showrunners, including Davis, I think, in the past, and Moffat certainly, is that this idea that Doctor Who is somehow exclusively or best the province of fall or winter, that the days are shorter and the nights are creepier and stuff like that, where this episode, I mean, one of the things that really startled me about the speaking of optics, like it specifically was how it looked. Everything was so bright. Everything was so cheerful. Like, you get this, if you look at Rose, there's almost a sort of like, if you ever watched the first episode of House, for some reason they filmed it through a sort of strange, like, yellowish sepia filter. And that's sort of how that first season of Doctor Who, the Christopher Eccleston season, sort of looks to me now. It's sort of a greenish, yellowish hue all the time. Whereas this was like bright daylight, like every single scene. And I'm just like, it looks beautiful. It looks cheerful. It looks optimistic. Like, launching in spring, you're going to get that same, like, there's a hopefulness. There's a joy and a wistfulness and an excitement just to how it looks.
I loved the set design and lighting in the ship.
Yep,
I adored that. It was so warm and cozy, and I was just like, I'm living there, actually. I'm a Death Metal fan. I'm all about eating babies.
Yeah.
No, I did. There are certain aspects I liked. I really liked the bits on the ship where he goes, I'm learning the language of the Na'vi.
Speaking ropes. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and then he unties it, and then it just it just ceases to exist because it's all tied.
That also has sort of strong Jim Henson vibes. That you're fiddling with ropes to talk, like that it's beautiful. And that ship, like you were saying, Jeff, the ship, it looks gorgeous. Like, it's the antithesis, and not in a bad way. It's just like it's a similar feel, vibe, look to it as the crumbling house in the Flux season for Jodie.
Oh God, I
like, it's a similar.
That.
Oh no, it's absolutely beautiful, and it has that vibe too of like, it almost feels like, yes, you got the Jim Henson stuff, but it also feels like a live action Ghibli film. Howl's Moving Castle. Like, there's just like, yes, this is a sinister creature or whatever, but they're not coded as necessarily evil or anything like that.
They're just eating.
And I feel like they were talking about also the internet getting a little angry about, Ncuti's first episode, is it really good optics that he kills the monster? And I'm like, I don't think he did, because the whole ship sort of like vanishes into the ether. So I think it's more like.
And then they're still manipulating stuff still in the background to keep the coincidence going. So they'll just, if we can't eat Lulabelle, we'll just travel backward in time, and we'll eat.
But when they get punctured and are defeated, I think that they sort of like, because the doctor says that they don't. He's like, Ruby says, won't they just come back for the kid? And he's like, they exist on the fringes of our plane. So I think that when he almost sort of popped the bubble of them being in our reality. So I don't think he killed anybody.
Yeah, well. Yeah, and then and they're also magical monsters. It's like
Rumpelstiltskin, Mr. Mxyzptlk.
Yeah, and they're not really
I think that yes, they were beautiful.
I did like the design that they all dressed like the cast of Newsies.
They're wearing little floppy hats.
And they're dancing like they're in a road company of Oliver. It's like okay, I see what you're doing. Or I'm showing my age. If you ever seen this movie called Bugsy Malone, which is it's supposed to be like a 30s musical, but it's all children in the roles.
With the big pie fight
at
the end.
Yeah, because the machine gun shoot pie fights, and it's Scott Baio.
Oh my God.
And Jodie Foster and it's Alan Parker directed it. He went on to do a lot of like really kind of dirty, smutty kind of stuff. It was all little kids, and it was just a kids movie. Bonnie Langford's in it.
Oh my God.
She's got a lead. She's got the second female lead in it. She's like 12 or 14. They're all really, really young. But that's kind of what they were dressed like, and I'm glad it wasn't a big scary monster. I didn't find them scary.
No, I don't think you were supposed to.
And I don't. Yeah, I think you were supposed to find them a little cute.
They're more. I think it's kind of. Gremlins is often considered like a must-see Christmas film, and they give off that gremlin vibe, that interfering. But
I was thinking more critters, like a shaved critter.
Either way, like the fact that and this is the thing for me about this whole episode, especially even just after the first time I watched it, which was there are, we always think about like what are the not we gonna think, or like what does the casual fan think. I don't think RTD cares about any of that. What matters to me and what I thought as soon as this episode was over was, and this made me very emotional. Sorry, I always get him on Doctor Who podcast now. That there's a 5-year-old who watched that last night who is going to be talking about it the way we talk about all the things from our youth at the 100th anniversary in 2063. That is who this episode is for. Like everyone else who liked it, I don't care what your takes are. I don't care who you think Mrs. Flood is going to be. What matters is that there are 5-year-old kids who in 2063 are going to be talking about this and how much they loved the Goblin song. And I love that.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a tie-in. That's going to focus this specific Christmas for that kid or those kids, and cement it forever. Yeah.
Every Doctor Who is someone's first Doctor Who. If I was turning my kids on to Doctor Who, if I had kids, this would be one I feel good about, because it is scary a little bit.
For kids.
It's a little bit, what will happen?
Yep.
But the Gremlins are cute enough, and they would be, I can know their parents all over England going, I'm going to fucking kill Russell Baby. They will not shut the fuck up with that song. It's like a Disney song, and they'll just watch it, and then they'll sing along. It's like,
The funny thing is, I call my dog.
This was a good one for kids. I think this is a good one for kids.
The funny thing
this is a really good end.
Is I sometimes call my dog Baby Beef Egg for no real reason. Because when she sits in her little nest, she looks like an egg, and she's got all this ticking pattern. But I found myself this morning walking her going, Baby Beef Egg on the Baby Beef Egg, Baby Beef. I was just like singing baby songs about my dog because of the goblins.
Okay.
But yeah, it was so charming.
I will, talking about how the not we or the casual fan view this, my wife's biggest complaint was the Doctor hasn't fixed the flat.
Oh.
And so now they're just left there. That's not very Doctor-like behaviour now. They're stuck in a drafty flat with an ill nan. Bit rough. And you never
but I was waiting for the something in Modern Who I really, really hate is we're going to do a quick fix and undo everything and leave everybody. Just no, he should leave fucking damage in his wake. The Doctor, whoever the Doctor should leave. There should be unexplained crap left in her wake.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, and that's always what Tom Baker, the ruins he left behind him.
Yeah.
And that's
come back and like she'll come back and it'll been they'll come back and the Ruby.
Well, they'll have scaffolding up the front. They'll have the tunnel going down into a skip. It's I know exactly what
he'll come back. He'll come back and it's all fixed and goes, "Oh, you got that done fast. You've been gone 2 years." Oh, shit. Sorry.
It's one of the things that I've always sort of scratched my head about listening to Doctor Who fans talk about Doctor Who, is that they seem to have this image in their head of the Doctor as sort of a faultless, flawless hero that just does everything right and proper and morally and exists in a code that or obeys and sticks to a code that exists only in their own fan canon heads. Whereas the Doctor he is at best an agent of what's the little
chaos.
Yes, the alignment is chaotic good or chaotic neutral or whatever it happens to be. Like
the thing is,
he's not what people think he is.
RTD is primarily responsible for that with David Tennant's first run as the Doctor with I'm the one that never would. He cemented that pacifist ideal of the Doctor into an entire generation of kids' heads, as we've just talked about. And that's what they took from that as a core principle of the Doctor. And that in itself is fine, but that's who that Doctor was.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that's who every Doctor is, because each one is different.
Yeah, and what I get is they've instilled that, and the Doctor, even though Davies says he's a pacifist, he does nothing ever as if he was a pacifist.
No.
He may not kill somebody, he manipulates anybody. Pacifism means you do nothing.
And
you do nothing.
And the other side of that is that the Doctor is also an opportunist. Like he or they do what they have to do with the materials and the circumstances that they're given. Like someone was saying, well, why did Ncuti jump up to drag the and destroy the goblin ship? And I'm like, well, his gloves gave out a power. Or his gloves were giving out. That was the only option left, was to bring the whole thing down. Because they're like, didn't he know he was going to kill all the goblins and maybe kill the baby? And I'm like, you're overthinking it. You're overthinking it. The Doctor,
he's got gloves that allow him to pull a giant ship to the ground, which was another one of the Doctor Who science.
I loved it. I love that.
It
made me think about the Nintendo Power Glove that never worked.
But it was, it was directed really well. I mean, I thought the action was good. It just, I had my only nitpick was really that it was such a patchwork. Is they gave you this little mini episode with the goblins, which is about a third of the episode, but then the rest of it is set up, and then the rest is showing something about Ruby being very important, whether it be to Jessica, Carla, and Cherry, or to the whole, God forbid, the whole universe, that there's she needs to be there.
But it was also a lot of fun.
All three of them worked as separate entities. When I was watching it, I was like going, okay. It hasn't flowed in the 3 times I've watched it as if I'm seeing a cohesive idea. But then again, it's a Christmas special, so you got to hook the kiddies, you got to scare the kiddies, you got to set up.
You've got to entertain a lot of very drunk adults sitting around, full of food, being boisterous. You've kind of got to be more noisy than the room that you're being projected to.
Bing, that's a good one. That's a good idea. Because my wife was going, "What's with this Christmas thing?" And I said, in England, what we do in America is we have fellowship with our family, we unwrap gifts, we have a meal, and then we fucking fight. Okay? Grudges from decades old surface. That's why I didn't spend Christmas with my family for decades. It's like, I don't want to get in that same argument again. But you guys sit down, get drunk, and watch telly.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And that's it. There is nothing on American television after about a parade in the morning that is new. It is just reruns.
Even
movies,
the wrestling
nothing.
was a rerun of the hits of 2023 last night. How disappointing.
Yep, we don't. No new television. Disney did with Marvel's got a second season of their What If cartoon, and they started a couple days ago, and they're dropping a new episode through the 30th. Instead of doing one a week, they're doing one a day as a Christmas.
Speaking of the wrestling, my buddy Dan does videography and film work for AEW. And he is on his way right now to whatever big event is happening in Tokyo coming up.
Oh, really? I
Mhm.
know they've got World's End coming up at the end of the month, but I don't know what's going on in Tokyo. But there's always something going
Yeah,
on.
there's
in
something
Tokyo.
always going on in Tokyo.
Yeah.
But the one thing I wanted to say, because again, thinking about all the people going nuts on Twitter about the casual viewer or the overnight ratings, is the other thing that occurred to me watching this episode is, and I don't know why people don't talk about this more often, like, you, Jeff, and you, Ross, know that somewhere out there within the next week or two, or like 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after, someone out there in the world is recording a podcast or will record a podcast about the twin dilemma. Can I get any confirmation? Do you believe me that is a thing that has happened or will happen in the next couple of weeks?
I see no reason why not.
Now, that is widely regarded as one of the worst episodes of Doctor Who of all time. Am I also correct about that?
In some unfair fan quarters.
No,
yes,
no. This is just speculation.
Yes.
So the point is that the church on Ruby Road, we especially, and other people that are like us in the future, will be watching this episode over and over and over again and talking about it for the next 40 or 50 years. I don't care what the ratings are. I don't care what the hot takes are. Like, what I loved is that no matter what the Doctor companion pairing is, like, there's somebody's favorite, somebody's going to love them, and everyone's going to talk about them forever. And I loved being able to see their first adventure together and just, like, be sort of just awestruck by it. Like, that, yes, regardless of how I think about this, I will think about it again next year. I will think about it again 5 years from now. I will watch it again 10
It will
years
get
from now.
discussed every time we do Christmas episodes. Specials.
Yep.
We do. This is part of the canon now. It has its place in Doctor Who forever. And
Exactly.
you're absolutely right. It's another chapter of a story that we've been following for years, and we like to go back and revisit all the old chapters, and this will be no different.
Yep.
No different.
This is Graham. Graham, we all know Graham, robot. He put it out. It goes, there's old Who, new Who, and Mavity Who.
Yes.
I did like that little aside.
I just,
Mavity is our bad
lean
wolf.
into the
Mavity is our bad wolf, 100%.
I bet they corrected at some point, but they're just, for this season, they're just going to say Mavity,
I love it.
the Mavitas.
I think it's cute.
I have no.
Do you know what it reeks of? It reeks of the meddling monk, the time meddler, whatever you want to call them. But
I want the monk.
Who doesn't?
I'm tired.
Well, Mrs. Flood is looking for a backstory. So,
Yes.
I want Rufus Hound.
Bring back.
I want Rufus Hound, and I want Jenna Wayland on screen.
That would be so lovely.
It felt very Big Finishy. Was it just me? A lot of modern Who feels very Big Finishy, just like.
I think that, and I think that's. I really think Davies is like goblins things. Let's do things that we wouldn't have done before. Let's do the Big Finish stuff. Because Jeff, you made the joke about oh my God, please, the Scorchies.
Yeah.
But Jeff made a comment about the middle. Good God, the middle of the 60th.
Wild Blue Yonder.
Wild Blue Yonder. Yes, you said. I think you said it somewhere online that
I was talking to you. In fact, it may have been my first tweet as well. Possibly, I don't know.
Yeah, that it felt like a Big Finish script because it had all the Big Finish kind of things. Giant horse aliens, this gigantic spaceship. We're in the inside, and this time we don't have to build it ourselves.
Yes,
yeah. Think he's not thinking like in 2005. We've got new technology, so it won't look as cheap as it was when it was in its waning years where they're cutting budgets. But we're still not on par with America because they have more money.
I've said from day one since the Disney deal was struck, Disney need to, or Lucasfilm need to let Doctor Who play with the volume and see what they can do with that, because Star Wars, which uses the volume primarily, is a very structured universe. Doctor Who is not a structured universe.
Very chaotic. Yeah.
We could go to a land of 2D animation where your main characters are walking around in third dimension. I mean, Doctor Who's already done that to a point with Peter Capaldi in his first season. But the scope of what you could do with something like The Volume and Doctor Who, but we're already seeing special effects that overshadow anything that's gone in Doctor Who before, prior to the Chibnall era, really. I think from then on, it's just been a case of this is a treat for my eyes more than anything.
And I will say something. One thing I did like about this episode is we didn't go into the big giant TARDIS console room for more than a brief second. We stayed very everything
located.
Felt practical.
We felt in located.
Everything located, and everything. All the sets were real sets. They were tactile. It was like, we're gonna save those big Wild Blue Yonder kind of set pieces, because we can emulate and fake a volume set much better than we used to with CGI and green screen. So we've learned how to fudge it. But imagine what they could have done. But I like that in this episode because it was about Ruby. We're building Ruby's world. We're bringing the Doctor into Ruby's world, and then Ruby into his world. I think the practicality was a choice. I think the physical sets were a choice. It's like, let's save that for episode 2 when Ruby walks out onto an alien world.
Yeah, it felt very cozy, very grounded. You very definitely had a sense of place, and I loved again, thinking about the ropes in the Goblin ship. I loved the street that Ruby's family lived on. I don't know if y'all noticed, but there was one of the apartment buildings across the street. The brickwork on it had sort of like designs in it that also sort of looked like rope, and I just sort of liked
nice.
If you look at it again, it's like it feels like everything in this episode is supposed to feel linked. It's supposed to feel connected. It's supposed to feel grounded. And I got that sense a lot. And there is a lot of rope in this episode, a lot of linkage, like the rope ladder also from the Goblin ship. I like that idea.
All the cords they pull to make traps.
To say nothing of the strings of lights in Ruby's apartment that are all over the wall.
Ruby being the master knot in her own family. It's all metaphor. It's all linking. It's all very much.
All right, guys. Well, I overall enjoyed it. It was a good, I've had Christmas specials that I found painful. And
it's my second favourite Christmas special, and it's probably because although The Giggle was really our introduction to the Doctor, this is our first story for the Doctor. So,
I never, I like that he was in The Giggle a little longer than normal. But, this is his story.
And I don't have any doubt that this is, everyone will think about, again, this is Doctor Who fan continuity head, likes to think that he went straight from the Giggle to Ruby Road. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's had some adventures before he rocks up and starts dancing in the club.
You gotta build a big finish.
Yeah, they've learned from Chris Eccleston and how much they've had to cram into him not even looking in a mirror from regenerating.
Because I don't know, y'all probably saw the same tweets I did where everyone's like, oh, which incarnation was the one that met Houdini? And I'm like, all of them?
All of them, they've all mentioned him.
Ncuti Gatwa, he's talking about himself. He's definitely talking about himself.
It's like Elizabeth I,
John Pertwee is
the Doctor's...
Definitely, because he references it. The Sixth Doctor references it in the Big Finish audio, I'm certain.
He hangs out with him in a Big Finish audio.
Yeah, of course,
They have an adventure. One more point I want to make is that I want to sort of bring a couple of threads that both of y'all were talking about earlier to bear and sort of tie them together here at the end. Is that, Ross, you were saying earlier that this has some of the timey-wiminess of Moffat, and Jeff, you were talking about how how the themes of the Timeless Child were brought in, and I'm really loving thinking about, because those thoughts occurred to me as well watching the episode 2 or 3 times now, is that it feels like this new era is sort of RTD saying, okay, I am going to cherry pick the best bits of Doctor Who, and this is synthesis. This is RTD saying, what can I bring from the history of Doctor Who? How can I recombine? How can I move forward and really like launch a new era with all the best bits? And I think, yes, Ross, that there is timey-wiminess because, again, I think that Mrs. Flood, whether, again, Jeff, she is in the Beatles episode or a different episode that, she did not know anything that was going on in the beginning of the episode. By the end of the Church on Ruby Road, she has had an adventure at some point in between during this episode. So there is timey-wiminess happening. Yes, Ruby has, and this is the other thing, is that the Doctor at the beginning says no one knew who her mother was until the night that ... But he never interacts with her. So I think that story is not yet done. We will learn who that is because they say that they never knew her name until, but we never learned her name. So that is still forthcoming. That's laying groundwork. But again, with the adoptive parents, I feel like he took the best idea from that and is like, okay, how can I incorporate this into this new era? So this is, it's not only a finger to the NMD fanboys, but it's also Russell saying, I like these things and I am going to work these into the new show. And I love that. It's just, it's a great synthesis.
I do need Murray Gold to back off the pedal a little bit, though. Fuck me. There was a really
Jeff, I'm gonna agree with you on that for the first time because I'm a big Murray Gold, but I cannot remember the scene.
There was a lovely scene where Ncuti is taking it really down low, and there's this plinky music going over the top of it, and it was actually actively irritating me and stopping me from hearing what Ncuti was saying.
I think I know exactly what scene you're talking about because there was this moment where I was like, what? Shut the fuck up.
Yes. There was very much this is actually drowning out the dialogue. And not to the point that I've ever noticed before. Now I am losing my hearing in my left ear.
It's all that it's all the death metal.
It is. It's going to gigs, it's being in bands. I've done it to myself. I know I have. But
you're going to have to
start if exactly rather than being butchered at birth. That's Cannibal Corpse gags for those who don't know.
Yeah, so, go listen to death metal. Treat yourself this holiday season to the gift the gift that keeps on giving.
Death metal is
the gift of Cannibal Corpse,
and it's technical and it's wonderful.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful,
and that's why I don't really like Murray Gold's music. It's an acquired taste, and I have a very different taste. So I understand why lots of people love Murray Gold, but in all seriousness, it's too much. It felt too much last night. And normally I just ignore it. I don't even notice it. I don't know the names of any of the themes that he has running through Doctor Who because I don't care, because I don't really like it. I'm not going to go out of my way to find it. I much preferred Sagan for modern Doctor Who, but that's personal preference. That's just me. I like Tristram Carey's scores. One of my favourite Doctor Who scores is the Sea Devils. So leave that. It's a matter of taste, and I get it.
Yeah. Normally I love him because I'm a big John Williams kind of guy. I get it. I get that it's a Spielberg.
I love John
thing.
Williams.
Yeah, but that's what Murray Gold's trying to be. He's not ever gonna be, but that's what he's going for.
I love.
They all do.
I love the sax.
But last night there was a point where I was like, it's distracting. It is so loud.
It's Christmas. Put on the captions. I was gonna say. I
have to do that.
Since we're shouting out our favorite classics, I love the saxophone quartet in Death to the Daleks. Give me that every day.
Yeah, Karen Crichton is fantastic and sorely underrated. The Revenge of the Cybermen incidental music is some of the most catchy, whistleable, hummable music you've ever heard.
I'm not a big fan of that story, but I do like the music.
Oh, Revenge of the Cybermen is beautiful. It's fantastic.
Well, I just watched Sea Devils recently, and I was like, why can't we have this?
It's great.
I would like a different score. I would love that they had more than one person. I understand why they have one person, because they're going to write themes that they can use over and over again to fill space. But why not have a mix, someone who's a little more technical,
I think with
industrial.
With classic Doctor Who, part of the story's personality and presentation is having different people scoring it and what they come up with for that story, and it becomes a part of its identity.
It's good world building. If you're putting them in a new environment, let's give it a new sound.
And I'm thinking we might get a little bit more of that this era, especially when we know we're going to have a sort of Regency episode. We know we're going to have the Jinx Monsoon. We know we're going to have the Beatles. Like, those are three completely different sonic.
There's some musical things going on.
Those are some.
Because Jinx Monsoon's costume is a keyboard,
Yep.
isn't it? It's musical.
So I'm thinking that we will definitely get some music, some score variety this year, whether it's specifically from Murray Gold or because of
the introduction of other outside music. That there are musical numbers. So who knows? The music's playing a big part.
So you may actually get your wish there, Jeff. We may actually get some variety this.
Some death metal in Doctor Who.
I would absolutely go all in for that. Please. I want Gwar to guest star. How about that?
Oh yes, please.
Wouldn't that be lovely? That feels.
And I know
this episode
because I'm in Gwar's hometown. We were talking about that at work the other day because there's a Gwar bar here.
We love Gwar.
Yeah. But I remember Dave. I knew Dave just from hanging out in the same restaurants in the 80s when he went from when Gwar was being born, because they were in another band before that called Death Pit.
Amazing.
And there were places that they tagged.
I highly recommend Gwar's bass player, Brutus. His real side band is a band called Capone, and they're amazing. They're well worth checking out. They're really good.
Fantastic. Like spelled like Al Capone, Capone.
No, like Capone. It's Kepone.
Okay.
Yeah, they're great.
Speaking of which, Ross, what is your recommendation for this week?
I'm just read some comics. I'm just taking a vacation. I'm on vacation. My main thing is just don't work for a fucking week.
Jeff, what's your recommendation? Are you recommending Capone?
I will recommend Capone, although I recommend them just in casual conversation all the time. I think my recommendation for the week is. Well, I'm playing Witcher 3, so there you go. There you go.
That's a good one.
I bought the complete remastered, all the DLC pack. I've tried it before and I didn't get on with it. I'm having much more fun with it this time round. So yeah, Witcher 3. There you go.
My recommendation. This is actually what I went up to Richmond for about a month ago, or at the beginning of this month, to go and stay with Ross. I went to go see one of my favorite bands, Flock of Dimes, play at Space Bomb Studios, which is only a mile from Ross's house. I was so pleased about that, to be able to walk to a show. Flock of Dimes. Absolutely love Flock of Dimes. Go listen. Have a great time. Have a lovely holiday. Thank y'all for listening to us talk about the Church on Ruby Road. Ncuti Gatwa, Millie Gibbo, get in.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Now we got to wait until May at least, or whatever.
Nah, not long.
Nope, not at all.
Do you know what? It'll be next Christmas before we know it.
Yep.
So.
Yep. My garden is going to be coming up by the time Doctor Who starts, and I am so excited about that. I just put down the bone. I just put down the bone meal. That is very death metal, also.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on. Hey, folks, as always, we look forward to seeing you all somewhere in time or space.